Okay. So, with the current stuff that's going on, I mean, we've been talking about racism for a long time, and now it's bleeding into everything. The people who are looking in the fraud, Minnesota, they're racist because they're Somalis and they're black. Uh, People down here in Texas who are looking into the H-1B visa issues, they're racist because anyone who looks into that doesn't like Indians. It has nothing to do with fraud. Uh, and since how I'm in favor of removing fraud from our government and reducing massive loss. People are starting to, because I'm in favor of looking at the H-1B visa stuff and shutting down fraud in any part of the government. This is a big thing that's been coming at us, at me, and people who are saying this. Personally, I've never understood racism. Not because it's immoral or anything like that. I've just never thought it was a good way of judging things. If you look at right now in Minnesota, the people who are the people who are trying to get the illegals out, the people who are trying to keep the illegals in are both white. So, you can't look at somebody and be like, oh, you're a good or a bad person, or you're positive or negative from skin color. I've always felt like it was kind of like the people who were pushing it there was like obviously some other agenda because this wasn't it, because it's never made sense. If you were like, okay, we're not going to like Christians, we're not going to like conservatives or liberals or, whatever, because of the values they hold or because the things that they aspire to or, the whatever, that makes sense. If it was one of those things where, you decided that you didn't like a group of people because of the way they thought or because the way they acted within a culture or within a group, that would make some sense. Blanket statements are usually a bad idea to begin with, but the idea that you should, or it's logical or conceivable to not like a group of people because of where they were born or what their skin looks like or what their hair looks like or anything like that, I've never understood that. Again, because it's a bad way of classifying things. So if you're like, okay, these things are like these things are highly toxic, these things are not. Okay, like that makes sense. But just the way that things look, I've never really understood that. The only thing that does make sense to me is that if you were going to try to control a large group of people, and the easiest thing to do is to set tribalism in place and then say, well, this is our team and that is their team. And we have to be very, very, very concerned with the two different teams, right? The red and the blue, or the black and the white. We have to be very, very concerned with, this thing here, so they can focus everybody's attention on this. So they can go do all these things over here without anybody watching or seeing or knowing what's going on. That's always been kind of my thinking on it. When people are pushing the race thing, I'm always like, all right, we're making lots of smoke over here about this race thing. What are you really trying to accomplish? What are you really trying to get pushed through? Is it, for instance, fraud in Minnesota? Is it fraud in Texas? Is it, whatever it is you're trying to get pushed through? Because the race thing has literally never made any sense to me. You can do it by culture. I get that, because this culture is, antithetical to, for instance, if you were a women's activist, obviously pushing back against, Islam would be a very obvious thing to do, because in the Islamic faith, they're very negative towards women. And if you were pro-woman, you'd obviously be against that culture. So I get that, but I've never understood the entire race issue. Now, it's one of those things everybody's throwing out. That's the way that a lot of people, specifically on the left, some of it on the right, but most of the people on the left are trying to shut everybody down with, is this thinking of, this is the level of where we need to be. We don't need to think anything past this piece. I don't think that's how any of the people who are organizing or manipulating these things are thinking. So I would be, whenever the racism thing comes up, I really think that we should kind of look past that initial thing and go, okay, what are you really trying? What are you trying to create all the smoke for? What's behind the smoke? What are you trying to get done that nobody wants to either discuss or talk about? Because most of the time when you get past that, it's like, well, the reason you weren't trying to make this a race argument is because your factual argument falls apart. So, that's typically what we see. But that would be the big thing that, because people ask what is, my stance on it. That's literally where I stand. I don't really care. I get the culture thing. I get, any other type of group thing where it's a philosophy or it's a thing that people have chosen. especially if it's a philosophy like a religion or a political function or something like that, because that has a set of, this is how we think, this is what we do, to buy into. So you can look at it and be like, okay, I don't agree with these specific points. So that's kind of where that's been. So if anybody is accusing anybody else of racism, I would look at that as a smokescreen and see what's behind it. There's a whole lot of the, as people were talking about, Ken Paxton came out. I didn't know with Ken Paxton the other night, and he was talking about a lot of the things that are going on in the state, and the H-1B visa fraud thing is one of the big deals. And then as people were talking about the H-1B visa fraud that is in North Texas, the Indian community came out. Nobody said anything about the Indians from where I was seeing. And they were like, you're all racist. Because the only reason that you look into the H-1B visa thing is if you're racist. And it was kind of one of those like almost out of the blue type of things. And it's like, all right. So that's where some of this is kind of coming from, I've never understood that, but I thought, if we're going to get into this, that would be one of those things that I think I should come out and kind of address up front. But it is kind of interesting to me, the amount of smokescreen people put up. And this is just one example of where it is. But, from a mental standpoint, that's why I think it's funny, just the indoctrination, the way people think and the way people have been decided that, oh, this is a thing, so we're just going to go through it without ever thinking through it. And I just feel like a lot of people who push into this narrative have never really thought through how idiotic it is to make judgments based on race. But I guess we're all a little bit different the way we think. So that's what's going on this weekend. That's what is on my head. So that's where we're at. Thanks for your time. It's been a nice weekend or a nice week.